You'll have to forgive my voice, I'm just feeling a bit under the weather. So I always put the beam and the draft as low as possible. It cuts out a huge amount of cost. So as you can see, it's about 95 or 96. So you've just saved 21 million by putting them down to the minimum. With the range, I always put it as low as possible now. Not mainly for the cost, but for the weight that you save. It doesn't seem to make that much difference. So yeah, I'd just have the range, beam and draft down to the minimum. With the speed, what I usually do is try to go for 30 knots in 1940 on a battleship, and then for each decade before 1940 take off 2 knots. So this is a 1920 battleship, so I took off 4 knots, go for 26. That's just a rule of thumb. It's not. You can change that to whatever you prefer, but that's just what I normally go for. With these engines, I always go for the cheapest because that saves a huge amount of cash. I mean, it only saves 2 million here, but you only get 1% extra to deal with, so 2 million is quite a lot. But say if you choose something like turbo electric, it goes up massively, and in later eras, if you choose diesel, it'll go up massively. So I always just say stick to the turbined engines. You can go on geared turbines and geared turbines too if you want, if you just need that little bit of extra weight. But in general, I just go for the lightest. Never go higher on the Augs 2. The others are just too expensive. Balance spoilers is always best. If you've got too much engine efficiency, you can drop it down to forced. And then you might save a bit of weight that way, but usually balanced is the best. Oil 1 is nearly always the best choice, even if you've got oil 2 and 3. You can tinker around with them if you want to see if you need the extra engine efficiency, but for costs, oil 1 is usually the best. In terms of flash fire chance, on battleships you nearly always want the best barbette. You also want the best armour, pretty much always. Always go for anti-torp 1. You can go higher if you've got the weight, but never go with nothing, just always go anti-torp 1 minimum. I've only gone for these because I had the spare weight. I didn't really know what to do with it, but quite often I wouldn't even bother with these 4. So just highest barbettes and anti-torp 1. HE is really good in this patch, so just go for max HE, and the furthest to the right on the HE shells. That'll do massive damage and it won't ricochet any shots. With the AP shells, I always go furthest left to reduce the ricochet chance as well. It's better to do less damage and more chance of actually hitting, not ricocheting. That's just my opinion. I haven't really tested these out that much, so there might be somewhere in the middle that is a better choice. I'm not 100% sure on that. Always go for heavy shell size because it increases your accuracy over range, and increased shells because you're going to be outnumbered most of the time if you're going for a battleship build. So you're going to need the increased shells to down the enemy quite often. With the tube powder and the bursting charge, always go for the things that reduce the flash fire chance as much as possible. So that's usually tube powder and TNT2. So if I went for anything higher than TNT2, your flash fire chance goes up, which is why I usually stick to TNT2. You're very rarely going to lose one of these battleships to shells. The only real chance you're going to lose them is to flash fire, so that's why reducing the flash fire is the most important thing. I've only put a torpedo on just to balance the ship out, so I've just got one at the back here just to balance the ship out. That's the only reason. And I never bother with turrets. You can go for the first one if you want, but I never bother. Quite often I'll go for the highest of this if I've got spare weight, but if you haven't got spare weight, don't worry about it. With the rangefinder, just stick to coincidence, never go stereoscopic. It's worse in every sense stereoscopic is, so just go for the best coincidence rangefinder. Acoustics, they're only really necessary if you're going to be doing last second torpedo dodging. If you're doing preemptive torpedo dodging, you can get away with not even bothering with these and just preempt where you think the enemy's going to fire. I never really bother with the radio, it doesn't really make much difference in my opinion. And then the armour scheme, I usually go 14, 7, 7, 7, 3, 3, 3, and then go 16, 16, 12. I put a bit more on the main deck just because I'm going to be staying at long range because it's a battleship. I don't intend on closing the distance, so I just put a little bit extra on the main deck. I'm not 100% sure why I didn't put these up to 16, 12, but clearly I didn't. And then I went for the highest caliber guns at the highest mark, so because it's Mark 3, that's better than a Mark 1 15-inch. That's why I've gone for 14-inch Mark 3. And then I've stuck some smaller guns down for dealing with the torpedo threats that are going to be coming in at me. So yeah, that's about it really. I can't think of anything else that's important with this ship. Okay, so when you're moving your ships, we've just sent out one ship on his own. The more ships you move, that just determines what the task force is going to be. So we've just sent one ship out on its own, so now we're going to send the rest of them out on their own. So that's going to be another task force there. Now, if you click on the ship itself, you've got these roles. Now at the moment, invade and protect are broken, they don't do anything, don't choose them, just always stick to sea control. Your repair priority, I assume, I don't know if this is implemented in the game yet, but I assume that if you take a small amount of damage, if you've got high priority, all your ships will return to port. If you've got it on low priority, they'll stick around and try and fight with low HP. I assume that's how it's going to work, but I don't think it's fully implemented in the game yet. So if your ships get damaged and return to port, they should. I say should because I've seen some people say that it doesn't work, but 99 times out of 100 it's worked for me. So if they get damaged, they should return to the port that you sent them from. So this is why really I wanted to be on the eastern side of Italy, so going from there to there when I get damaged, rather than all the way around, which is just annoying. So yeah, when they get damaged, they should return to the port that they set from, and then you just select them and send them back out again. I think that's covered everything, I think anyway. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. If you've got any more questions, just give us a shout.